Hello. Yes, the rumours are true. The six of us you may have seen all over social media, we've come together. We've got a little channel of our own to discuss all things women's football. How about that? Let's not waste any more time, eh? Should we just get straight into it? And there we are. Hello and welcome to All for Women's Football, as it says on the title there. Look at this little panel, six founders, as I think we said on one of the meetings. I think Barry said it right back. How long ago was it, Barry? You said it was like the founding fathers of America back on a meeting way back. I don't even remember what it was. Let's just say October for argument's sake on that one. Hello to everyone in the comments. Great to see some familiar faces already, some new ones in there as well, which is great to see. First show, obviously, on this new channel, we're going to give you a little bit of an introduction, why we're here, obviously, our own personal reasons for getting involved in the channel. We're going to obviously talk about the FA Cup as well. And to be honest, anything else you guys want to talk about, because that's what the beauty of this channel, as it said in the little intro there, every league across the world, any talking point is going to be discussed in this channel. So, Barry, I'll come to yourself first. Obviously, people will probably know who you are if you've come from All for United WFC. But why have you got involved in this channel in particular? What excites you about this little project that we're building over here?
Well, if I was on All for United, I'd sit there and say it's because Connor's going to be into it. But no, we're not on that. So we'll sit and talk about it properly. We've all put out our profiles so that everybody can see what it is that we stand for and what it is that we're here for. But, ultimately, women's football is just growing exponentially. It's absolutely crazy how big this game has got, but never forget that it didn't start off big. It started off like years ago with Arsenal winning just the WSL as it was, and then just like the top league before that. It was absolutely mad. So I just think the amount of time I've spent, whether it be in men's football, women's football, it's just an absolutely awesome game. And when you get the opportunity to be involved in something as exciting as this, and to be part of the growth of something, I think it's really important that you get that opportunity. And I see so many things that are out there. People talking about the WSL all the time. Every show is WSL, or it's all about, the top teams. Actually, I just think it's right that the spotlight is shone on women's football as a whole. So why am I here? Because I'm all for women's football. So therefore, why would I not be?
I like that. And I like James's comment as well. Yes, we had a few people said that. Why have we not called it WOSO? Because obviously that's the more commonly used name. We are here to change that narrative, to bring it back to football and not soccer. Sorry to any Americans watching. TJ, I'm looking at you right from the off. Mia, over to yourself then. What excites you about your, I guess, involvement in this project, and I guess why you're involved? And people don't know, obviously, you just introduce yourself to potential new viewers as well.
Yeah, so my sort of background in football is very like journalism based and media based. I'm an editor of a little company, Women's Football Office, and I think this project that we're doing here in this channel and this show, what excites me the most is that we've put no barriers around. There's no boundaries. The only thing we're talking about is women's football, and that's our bag. It's what we do. It's what we watch it every week. I'm a big fan of the Italian Women's Football League, so that's I pay attention to what's going over there a lot. Do a lot of United games. It's just nice that we get to dig into things that are bigger than just WSL or even Championship. We're going beyond that. So that's really exciting to me. And yeah, I can't believe it's here. I can't believe we've already kicked this off.
It's certainly been, I think, Barry, you mentioned it a second ago. Obviously, myself, Barry, and Jess met last March to discuss this channel. So it's been nearly a year since the original idea kind of came about on that one. Laura, for yourself, you were a kind of a later entry into the founding fathers, as I'm going to call it, on this one. But yeah, for yourself, obviously, you've been on All for United WFC as well. A lot over the World Cup, and yeah, just your involvement in this, why you wanted to get involved, and I guess your passion as well for women's football.
Yeah, I was a bit of a late call up to the squad. Like no one got injured, but I was like the player that everyone gets excited for after someone's got injured. But yeah, I think for me, like, it was really exciting when obviously you invited me to join, and I think again my background's quite journalism based, and I've floated around a lot and always like love women's football, and I think often there's never there's a few dedicated platforms, but it's just really exciting to have a space with a group of people who are all really enthusiastic and an audience that are all really enthusiastic about women's football to be able to talk about those things. And I think often there's a niche and there's a need for women's football content, but I think sometimes that goes into quite a narrow funnel. But I think being able to expand that and being able to expand the topics is kind of repeating what everyone else is saying. But I think it's just that passion to talk like beyond women's football as we now know it, and to kind of address some of those topics, because there's so many stories, there's so much history, there's so many different leagues that people aren't talking about at the moment, especially like in the mainstream platforms, and being able to bring that hopefully to a new mainstream platform is just really exciting.
Excitement is certainly the word I'm sure you'll see by the majority of us, I'm sure, as we get into some juicy FA Cup times as well, which is obviously going to be the main bulk of this show. But Jess, over to yourself. Obviously, we've actually got a player with it. I know actually me used to play as well. I don't know whether Laura and Meg actually did or not, so I didn't actually ask. I don't know your previous history in terms of playing football. Meg's shaking her head. Laura's
I did a little bit. I got scouted for Notts County. That's my claim to fame. But then I had to give it up. So I'll go with kind of the three of you as our playing reps. But Jess, obviously, a lot more recent. Are you back in football now? What are you doing? You're kind of in and out of retirement.
No, I'm still pondering my next moves. So maybe I think I'm taking the season off, and we'll see what happens from there. But being the Sunday League specialist that I am, obviously my team are missing my services. Obviously, why would they not be? And actually, I do have a little FA Cup related claim to fame. I have scored in the FA Cup. And that I like to throw that little tidbit out there every now and then. I don't remember if we won the game. Don't remember anything else. I think I got an assist as well. I played fantastic. Don't remember anything else. Don't remember who I was playing. Don't remember where. Don't remember what my goal was like. I just know that I scored. And it was not a dream, I don't think. But yeah, that kind of is what brought me here in a roundabout way. Being able to shed a light kind of on what's going on in leagues lower down the pyramid. I think sometimes when we see the growth of the women's game, we maybe forget that it's not all sunshine and roses down in the lower leagues. And in addition to that, I think with women's football not being as popular, obviously it's growing in popularity, but we don't get the same coverage of kind of international leagues as you do with the men's game. For most men's fans, all about kind of the big leagues in Europe. With women's fans, it's kind of getting there now a little bit. But I think to be able to shed more of a light on that is just going to be really good. Even for myself as a football fan, I'm looking forward to learning more about that through this channel.
No, certainly something we aim, obviously, to do as well, to obviously educate ourselves, because none of us are sat here claiming that we are experts on any of the topics that we want to talk about. That's why you'll see a lot of new faces come on this channel over the next kind of few weeks and months as we develop as well. Meg, for yourself, obviously you've been involved in women's football as well, obviously with Wolves and various other things as well. But yeah, for yourself, to bring us home on this kind of introduction in terms of what brought you to the channel and your involvement in it.
Yeah, so when I was at uni studying football journalism, I spent 2 years at Wolves Women, and that really kind of shed a light on how much there is going on in the lower leagues in women's football that needs to be brought to light. And, those 2 years, I learned so much working for a club, and also just about the lower leagues and how exciting the football is down there. It's not the standard of the WSL, but it's still so exciting. And players do want to make those jumps into the Championship and maybe the WSL from those lower leagues. And as Jess has just said, we're all here to learn as well as, I guess, educate, people who may not be into women's football at the minute and, want to get to know. And I think the main thing is we're not just going to be talking about football on the pitch. We're going to be talking about the issues off the pitch, whether that's the issues that have arose in the past, the issues that are ongoing now, or issues that will, crop up in the future. But yeah, just so excited to be able to, talk to a camera and, with yourselves, we're all very, very passionate about the game, and yeah, let's go.
Indeed, let's get. Oh, there's a rumor starting already. Is it secret Wolves fan at heart?
I'm a Wolves Women fan now. I after my involvement there, but not going into the men's there. No.
I think you'll notice as you get to know us, sort of, if anyone is new watching, that we've all got kind of connections. Obviously, Barry with Stevenage, myself with Stourbridge as well. I don't mind supporting teams that obviously lower down the pyramid as well in the women's game, that's for sure. And just very quick, obviously on NT's comment there, obviously you were watching us just literally about half an hour ago on All for United. So great to see you over here as well, and yeah, appreciate the kind words there. Hopefully, yes, as we said, grows this channel as well. And yeah, I guess from myself, as kind of, if you want to call me, I guess, the owner of All Four, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I just hope that we can bring exactly what we've done over on All for United WFC, and obviously the men's channel that Barry and Dan are continuing over onto this channel as well, with a lot of, obviously you'll see the six of us every Monday, but a lot of different kind of shows as well, which you'll see throughout the weeks coming up as well. So really exciting on that front. Right, should we get into this FA Cup then, as we put on the thumbnail, up for the cup and all that kind of thing. It's fourth round, obviously, as we get into that one. So Meg, what we've done, I don't know why I just said your name then. I went to say I'm coming to you, but anyway, I am coming to you in a second. So what we've done for people obviously watching along with us, we've kind of each picked a game to kind of highlight, and we are going to go through all of the games and kind of predict what we think is going to happen in the rest of the games, but we have all highlighted a particular game. So Meg, I'm going to start with yourself, and based off that comment about you being a Wolves fan at heart, I don't think it's any coincidence which team or which game you've picked to highlight. So do you want to talk us through the fixture in this round that you've decided to highlight?
Yeah, so I've decided to highlight Reading against Wolves. Obviously, there's a few WSL ties that will be happening in the FA Cup, but I wanted to kind of, look at something a bit lower down. Reading are currently 10th in the Championship, and Wolves are currently sitting 4th in the National League North. They've just come off the back of a loss against Burnley, which obviously could affect how this weekend's results go. But Reading, they've not been doing too well. They're currently on 2 draws and 3 losses in their last 5 games in the league. But when you talk about the FA Cup, you kind of want to look back on, how well they've done so far in the FA Cup this season. But Reading have only played the 1 game, and Wolves have only played the 2 games. So it's kind of hard to predict how they'll do in terms of that. Reading were 4-0 winners against Cheltenham, and Wolves beat Peterborough 7-0. Quite an easy game there, and then they beat Hull City 4-1 in what I heard was a very interesting game with a sending off for Hull, and there were definitely various opinions on how that game actually played out. But yeah, I think it's quite an evenly matched tie. I don't think Reading are necessarily going to come out winners. I think Wolves have definitely strengthened over the summer since I was there. I think it's hard when you're in the league that they're in now, with the likes of Newcastle that have come up from the league below and have gone full time and have heavily invested money into the club, and the likes of Nottingham Forest and Burnley. So I feel like for Wolves, this is a real, it's a chance for them to, keep their name on the map. Last season they faced West Ham in the 4th round, and that was at home, and that was a tie that got a lot of traction, and unfortunately they obviously fell to a 1-0 defeat, but it was a very end-to-end game until West Ham made some last minute substitutions to kind of kill off the game. But no, I think Reading will obviously go into this very hungry. They've got a couple of their forwards back from some quite long-term injuries, and I think their manager is currently trying to kind of find their style of play, and they've got some very established players like Lauren Wade, who's a Northern Ireland international, Jackie Burns as well. So they've got those established players who will want to do very well. But I couldn't call, it's going to be a very, very close game. But if Wolves are to get through, that would be, for them, the money side of things as well will definitely be brilliant. But there are some other games that are going on with clubs that are even lower down with Luton. So Barry, I believe you've been doing a bit on why their story could be special.
He's been doing shows for nearly 2.5 years. He can't find the unmute. What's going on?
No, the problem is, Connor, is that I've got so many tabs open on my computer that this one wasn't, and then I just lost it. They've all merged into one, and therein lies the problem with my eyes. But yes, I chose Luton against Brighton, and the reason why I chose Luton against Brighton is threefold actually, because the first one is who doesn't like a good underdog story. They are the lowest ranked side out of everybody. So out of all 32 teams that we're looking at, they are the lowest ranked. So therefore, they're the one that the nation should probably be supporting, just purely because everybody loves to see a giant killing. So that'd be your first thing. The second one is because they're actually in the league that I work in, Eastern Region Women's Football League. It's tier 5 in the pyramid, and we've got a bit of history with Luton. We really do. Last season, I can remember Vicky Neal scoring a last-minute goal, which got us all off the bench and going absolutely crazy to win 2-1. But Luton are doing incredibly well this season. They're 5th in our league. But the real story for us at our level is Real Bedford. Real Bedford are just flying at the moment, 10 games played. And I can't have this Brighton. So I haven't said anything about Brighton just yet. I'm just saying everybody wants the lower team to win. And if you don't, then, are you really a football fan?
He is a Brighton fan, I believe.
Well, just a lot of Stevenage fan in that respect as well. So by the same token, Stevenage and Luton, we don't really get on, to be honest with you. So let's be honest, if Brighton win, it's not like I'm going to be sitting there going, oh, terrible. But, there's a nice story there if they were to make it into the next one. But yeah, Luton, like I say, 5th in the league. Real Bedford ones that are flying at the moment where we are. And they've got some great players. Jess McKay, for example, she's an absolute dynamo for them. She's played over 160 games for them, scoring 64 goals. So, and you don't just get these stats readily, by the way. This is the sort of rubbish that I have to do lower down in the leagues to be able to sit there and try and work it out. This is hours going through things in full time, trying to get statistics, because this is what we're talking about. When you say what brings you into doing this sort of thing, it's the excitement. I'm a stats man. I love it. And I love when you can get involved in these sorts of things and finding the information. Honestly, it's fascinating. I've got spreadsheets upon spreadsheets upon spreadsheets being built, which have got, appearances and goals, and we're trying to get assists and things, because you take these things for granted. You watch the Premier League, you watch even the WSL to a degree, and you see, Maya Letizier's got 7 dribbles per match as an average. And we all just sit there and go, someone's got to work that out. How does that get worked out? I don't know. I've never watched a game of football and gone, that's a dribble. Like, there must be supercomputers or something doing it. I don't get it. I don't understand how it works. I'm 41 years old and have glasses. I'm sometimes lucky if I've got the right person to pass the ball. So as far as I'm concerned, getting these bits of information and trying to see how much they've scored and how many appearances they've had, so we can celebrate football lower down. And that's exactly what we've tried to do down there. So Jess McKay, she's one of the big ones. Luton on a 5-match winning run at the moment. So they're doing incredibly well. Shanice Lewis, another one, top goal scorer for them. And that's where their problem comes in. She's their top goal scorer with 7 goals, but they're not, I wouldn't say, free scoring at the moment. They've got goals spread throughout the team. Samira Khan with 5 and Leah Maddox with 5. But I just wonder, like, Brighton aren't doing all that well. They're really not. They're sort of sitting near the bottom of the league, and they're at home. This is the big thing. They've had a ridiculous run going forward. They've been away to Grays, away to Woodson Park, which is another one of those places we were talking on the other channel about, going to a game of, was it Kidderminster against Stourbridge, and you just end up at this park which has just randomly got a red bar that stops you from getting onto the pitch. It's like the easy thing, you just duck under. It's a bit like you get the horse racing, straight under, no problems. It's mad. And Woodson Park's a bit similar to that. It's literally at the back of a leisure centre. So, but they beat them away from home. Harpenden, they beat 3-0 away from home. And then they finally got some slightly bigger games where they had to beat Enfield Town. They beat them 5-3, again away from home. And their last game was against Keynsham, which they won 1-0. So they've got a good little run going on, Luton. They really, really do. And Brighton at the moment are just not looking as good as they could. They've only won 2 games in the WSL. They've lost 6. They're languishing in 10th. Are they really going to care about the FA Cup? Does it matter to Brighton? And I suppose later on down the show, this is kind of where I wanted to go with it, is does the FA Cup in the women's show when you show women's leagues have the same ring to it as the men's does. You know, do they care about it quite as much in the WSL as, say, like some of the Premier League teams do? I would argue yes, because there's so much more money now in the Women's FA Cup that actually it gives them a real good opportunity to earn some decent dosh. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you're looking for a cup upset, it could be Luton against Brighton. So if you're asking me to do the TV picks, that would be the one I'd want to see on the telly. It's not, because obviously, you know, WSL rules, don't it? But yeah, that's the one I would go for sure.
It's certainly going to be an interesting tie on that one. I'm actually going to change the order and throw the panel off here because I'm conscious Mia and Laura haven't spoken for a while. So I want to get to those two. So Mia, you were actually last on the list, so I'm going to come to you, and and Laura obviously following on this one. So Mia, which game or tie have you picked in this one? I believe you've gone for an all WSL one, which could be quite an interesting tie, this one.
Yeah, I have. When we had this discussion about which FA Cup ties we were going to pick, this one did shout to me for sort of various reasons. I picked Chelsea versus West Ham, and in my head, there's many different reasons as to why. The first thing that popped in my head, strangely, is that West Ham have just signed Christy Mewis. Obviously, Sam Kerr, her partner, plays for Chelsea. How brilliant would it be that Christy Mewis's first game in the English pyramid is against her to-be wife? Superb. Obviously, that's not going to happen, which is gutting for those who haven't seen Where Have You Been? But Sam Kerr has ruptured her ACL, which is devastating for her, devastating for Australia, devastating for Chelsea. However, we are still talking about Chelsea. And if you look back to we did an All for United team of the sort of mid-season a couple of weeks ago, just before Christmas, or just after Christmas. And Rob was on, and he was saying about how Chelsea can deal without, you know, Kerr. They can deal without Lauren James. In a way, the person that sort of turns the cogs in Chelsea's team is Erin Cuthbert. When she's not there, there's problems. So I don't think that, you know, this is going to massively impact Chelsea, because they know where the back of the net is. They have Lauren James. They have Aggie Beaver-Jones sitting on the bench. He's already bagged 5 goals this season. Sam Kerr is a loss. It's a bit of a hit for them, but equally, I don't think it's going to impact them too much. Obviously, you look at West Ham. They've had a flying start to this winter transfer window. They've brought in Christy Mewis, who's an NWSL champion. They've brought in Shalina Zadorsky, who is a gold Olympic medal winner. And they've brought in Katrina Gorry, who had a superb and highly, highly underrated World Cup. So that is 3 massive pieces of business that transforms their team entirely, brings in experience, brings in stability. And Rhiannon Skinner is not silly. She's building where she knows she needs to build. It's going to be a really interesting game. However, I don't see an upset happening. I think Chelsea are going to beat West Ham. I think there's a lot riding on. There isn't a lot riding because Emma Hayes has won everything apart from the Champions League. However, I think in her last season at Chelsea, she's going to want to do it all, just as a like one last rodeo. So I think she's going to throw everything at West Ham. Also, in the last 15 games the 2 clubs have played against each other, Chelsea have won 14 of those. There was 1 draw, and that came in March 2019. So the chances are Chelsea are going to progress through. However, it's going to be really interesting to see if Rhiannon Skinner plays her 3 new signings, how they get on, how they fit in the team. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. West Ham, obviously, at the bottom end of the table. They're on level points right now with Bristol City, relegation form at the minute. Chelsea, complete opposite end of that table. First place, as I say, they're going to want to challenge everything this year. So they're not going to want to let this one slip. And I don't think that they will.
Certainly makes some interesting points there. Obviously, I don't know whether this is Freya or Lindsay. Apologies. 115 yards anyway, so I'll go with that. Obviously, talking about that, obviously, with the official, obviously, be Jones as well. I think Chelsea have it covered. We'll come back to Chelsea because there's another quite good question about Chelsea as well, obviously, with Sam Kerr, obviously, with her injury now. So we will come back to them because I feel like that's a good little discussion point around what they could potentially do in this transfer window as well. So I'll start both of your comments to come back to just in a little bit later. There we go. Thank you. That makes it a lot easier now. I can just say Freya whenever I see your comments. From all WSL, then, I think, Laura, you've gone for all championship. So if you want to go us through your pick on that one.
Yeah, indeed. I dropped down a league and went for two teams that are much closer in the league. And the championship is looking out to be very, very competitive this year. I think the top 5 teams are separated by 3 points, and these are 2 of them. So I've gone for Sunderland versus Southampton. Currently in the league, Sunderland are on 22 points, whereas Southampton are on 21. And I think this fixture also stood out to me for another reason of just like they're 2 teams with huge history in women's football. You've got Southampton, who won the first ever Women's FA Cup, and they're only second to Arsenal on most FA Cups won. So in terms of history in the competition, like they're right up there. I think they won it 8 times. And then you got Sunderland, and I don't think like their kind of prominence in women's football needs to be elaborated on much more, but the names they've produced are like insane when you go through the kind of production. You got Lucy Bronze, Jordan Nobbs, Jill Scott, Steph Horton, the list goes on. So just in terms of like a history tie, I think it's a pretty good tie. And then on paper, like really exciting as well. You've got Southampton, who are scoring really well. They got some of the highest stats for goals. And then you've got Sunderland on the other hand, who have conceded the least in the championship, don't let many in, but are also not scoring as many. So I think it'll be a really interesting contest. I think earlier in the season, I better get this right now, I think Sunderland won 1-0 earlier in the season, but that was right at the start back in September. So very much an open game. And it could be anyone's, and I think it would just be like a really exciting contest, and let's see which history wins out more. But yeah, kind of 2 different teams, 2 different tactics in terms of Sunderland being a lot more solid defensively, but Southampton able to shake it up a bit more up front. And obviously you've got Marianne Spacey-Cale, manager of Southampton, who also has a lot of history with Arsenal. So I think that would just be really exciting tie, and I had to get Arsenal in there.
Of course. Was it taking 27 minutes? You managed to get in on that one. But yeah, I think we'll come back to it, I'm sure, in more detail. But obviously, Southampton have done well. Obviously, this season coming up from Tier 3 as well. They've certainly settled in the Championship very well. And Sunderland as well, as you said, a lot of history, a lot of top tier players we're now seeing now and have retired came through at Sunderland as well back in the day. Jess, over to yourself then, and it wouldn't be a connection to All for United WSC without mentioning United, I'm sure, because I'm pretty sure the game you've picked is United versus Newcastle, but maybe not for the reasons that people think. So if you want to go through on that one. And I have to tell you, Jess, you are muted, so we can't hear a word of what you're saying right now.
You know what? I will just never, ever get my head around that. I think like I could be doing these shows in like 20 years' time and I will still try and talk muted. So I do think it's something that we're all just going to have to accept at this point. I try my best to remember and I just can't do it. I really can't, so apologies. But yes, I have chosen the match of the Uniteds. So Man United against Newcastle. Obviously, being a big Manchester United fan, this game did stand out to me. However, just kind of being a women's football fan, you can't really kind of get away or ignore Newcastle's sort of rise in the last couple of years. I mean, it goes to show kind of with what investment, which, you know, we won't go into maybe where the money's coming from. That's a whole other topic of conversation. But the point is investment. It goes to show that with investment, basically anything is possible. You know, in terms of their league form, Newcastle are kind of smashing it. I think they've not lost a game so far this year. They've only drawn 1. They are easily beating teams kind of 7-0, 8-0. I will just do a special shout out though to Burnley, who are actually in second in the National League right now, and not too far off of Newcastle. So they really are doing them a run for their money. But Newcastle's kind of rise is insane. I think they're the only fully professional team in that league. And with their results that they're getting, their performances so far in the FA Cup, this could be a really interesting game. From a United point of view, a Man United point of view, I should say, we've not exactly been on the best run of form recently. So that could kind of go either way for Newcastle. This could be their chance to kind of put one over on the big dogs and really kind of cement themselves as a team that means business. Where they are at the minute, they're going to fly through that league, and they're really pushing. In a few years' time, I expect to see them in the WSL. Without a doubt, they will be there. And similar to Sunderland, the Northeast really is kind of like a hotbed of talent. So if they can kind of tap into that, and I know they've put a lot of money into their academies and their sort of community foundations. So if they can kind of emulate what Sunderland have done, then they're going to kind of be set up for years to come. What they've kind of got, what they're doing, it seems really sustainable. We see a lot of teams kind of just try and throw money at their women's team, and it just kind of filters out within a few years. But they're consistently pulling in good numbers to their matches. They're really growing in popularity for a team that basically have only been around for 2 years properly. They are doing phenomenally well. So this game really could be very interesting. And I have to admit, despite kind of their league positions in the league that they're in, kind of third tier, I am kind of nervous as a Manchester United fan, because I do worry that if they come out sort of with a point to prove and on their A game, that they can kind of do some damage. And as we know from sort of history in the men's game, Newcastle fans, they're going to be loud. If they can get a good kind of away supporting, then it's going to be loud at the weekend. And it is a game I'm actually going to, so I am very, very excited to see it. And I think I've not watched Newcastle yet, kind of live, so I'm really looking forward to that as well, to be honest. I think they're really, really interesting, going to be a good team to watch.
Are you still as excited knowing you're going to be stood next to me and Mia at that game?
No, maybe I won't go.
Thought that might be the answer. Thought I'd ask.
I'm going to go sit somewhere else. No, it's fine, because I'll need someone to scream at if I start getting stressed. You know what I'm like. And like I said, Newcastle could be, I'm a bit nervous. I'm not as comfortable or as confident as I feel like I should be. So I'm going to be a nervous wreck on Sunday. So just be aware of that, guys. I'm sorry in advance.
It's certainly not just from a Man United point of view. It's certainly a good game to pick out. As you said, Newcastle, their goal difference is 37. Burnley, the team below them, are on 18. They are beating teams, as you said, very comfortably every week.
Not even just one person kind of running away with it. So many different goal scorers. Anyone can bag on that team.
I think I said before that, yes, they're in tier 3, but they're a championship squad. They should be in the championship with that team they've got. And if they don't go up, something's gone wrong. No offense to Burnley and Forest, and I know Wolves could potentially get up to in second as well. But there's no way. I can't see anyone beating Newcastle to that top spot in that league. And nor should they, as you said, the only fully professional team, I think, in that division. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one. So yeah, we'll come back to predictions and things like that in a second. Let's see if anyone goes for a Newcastle win in that on that one. Yes, Highland, in answer to your question, I think that's probably a good comparison. They are what we were like when we entered the championship and just blitzed everybody. That's basically what Newcastle are doing in that league. With, like I said, Burnley are there or thereabouts, but I think the gap will probably get a bit bigger by the end of the season. So we shall see on that one. I hope not. She swung at Mia before as well. Just throwing you under the bus there, Jess. So
I feel like I get a bad reputation here. I promise I will be on my best behaviour. And it's going to be fine, because Man United are going to win. We know it. It's fine. I do have confidence in my team.
Glad you do. Yeah, I guess obviously that just leaves me then. The game I guess chose to highlight of Durham Man City. Purely on the base. If this was the other way around, and I think if this was at City's ground, I don't think I would have picked this one. But we've seen WSL sides go to Durham before. Durham are not in the best kind of form in the league. Laura obviously spoke about the championship. The top 5 are kind of in their own little mini battle, and then you've kind of got the bottom 6 kind of separated. But any team that goes to Durham usually struggles because that pitch that they play on is very different to probably what most WSLs, well, certainly WSL sides are used to anyway. They're a very physical side. Durham, as we've obviously, as Man United fans, I'm sure, Barry, while we've been there, we've been to Durham away and experienced that and seen the physicality that obviously they play with. I just think they could, if they, we've all kind of spoken about potential upsets here. I think this is a one City could potentially struggle at, purely because we've seen so many WSL sides go to Durham and struggle. Durham have got nothing to lose. No one's expecting them to win or anything else, so they can go out there and play the football that they can play. I think obviously they've got quality players. Obviously, Dee Bradley's still at the back. And so on. But when you're looking at like Poppy Pritchard, for example, she's been linked with a lot of WSL, so United included, being one of them. Obviously, Chelsea, another one as well. So there's quality there. And I think if you're looking at another upset, I think that's on the cards, potentially on that one. So, yeah, if this was maybe the other way around, as I said, obviously home advantage potentially, I don't think it would be as big of a game. But I feel like Durham could potentially do something in that one. So there's some interesting ties throughout the leagues, and that's throughout the ties, I should say, on that one. I thought it was just worth mentioning as well. See, Moneyfields is another team. They're on the thumbnail. Does anyone want to, I guess, talk about them? Obviously, Barry, they're closer to the league, obviously, that you working on that one. But is there anything you want to add on them as well? Because obviously they deserve a mention, obviously, getting this far in the cup.
They do deserve a mention
on this one.
They do deserve a mention. I mean, they've got London City Lionesses are sitting 9th in the championship at the moment, and Moneyfields are an 8-match unbeaten run. They've had a very similar sort of run that Luton did, really. They've had a couple of easy games, you would say, as well. They had Gloucester, that was 4-0. Ashford was 6-3. Then they had to play Haringey Borough, another side that are in the RWFL with us. Beat them 3-1, and Haringey are no slouches. They've got real pace up front. So to only consider the one goal is pretty good, because we lost 6-2 to them at home. So when they get going, they are very good. And then they built Millwall 1-0 as well. So they're doing really, really well. In their league, they've got a couple of good players to look for. Charlie Wilson-Wilton, she's scored 16 goals in 16 appearances. So she's looking really good. And then someone whose name I'm going to absolutely butcher, I'm afraid, Kianichi Taylor. Not sure, sorry. I'll have to come and see her and work out what's going on there. She scored 15 out of 15 as well. So, listen, they've got, again, a real opportunity there. 9th in the championship, not doing well. London City Lionesses, 3 wins, 3 draws, 6 defeats. They've got a negative goal difference, whereas Moneyfields have got all the positivity going on them. So it's an away game. Will be tricky for them. But, yeah, I think Moneyfields they've got an opportunity. They've got a chance. Maybe it's just the eternal optimist in me. But, yeah, that would be quite something.
I hope so, because as you said, I think we all would like to, unless it's against your team you support, we all love to see a bit of an upset. And I think, I don't know, I think for me, I'm looking at the game that Meg picked, Wolves Reading. I think if there's any one that's going to be likely, I think it's that one, because Reading are only going one way, and that's down. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually went down again and just disappeared kind of into the pyramid. Wolves have not been on a great run. Obviously, like I said, lost to Burnley yesterday. But I don't know. I think if that's a game I'd be looking at, if you're looking at a team from below being the team above, I think that's probably one. What we do, because I know, Barry, you obviously want to talk about the importance of the cup and things like that. We are going to get to that, as well as the Chelsea questions that are a bit further on. But we thought we'd go down the full list, the full 16, and just in a sentence, I'll come to each of you for each fixture, who you think is going to win. And like I said, just a sentence as to why you think that. And then we're going to come back to this next week and see how many we actually got right. So I think there's going to be a few where we all say the same result, but we shall see on that one. I've only got 50 because there's a Saturday game, that Villa that are playing on the Saturday. So we'll start with that one then. Aston Villa, I believe it's Everton. I'm just double checking because I've got the wrong tab up at the moment. Aston Villa, Everton. Who is winning that one? We'll go in the order that's on screen. So Barry, Mia, Laura, Jess, Meg.
Okay, so you've got Villa 9th, Everton 7th. It should be a draw. It's probably going to go to penalties. And then I'm going to go Aston Villa.
I am going to say Everton. Don't know why. Like their striker. hopefully she scores a lot of goals.
Yeah, I'm going to go Villa. Also, I think it's just a hard one to call, but that's just on my gut instinct.
I'm going Villa. They should be doing better in the league. They're not, so they're going to have to just do better in the cup, aren't they?
I'm also going to go Villa. I feel like Rachel Daly will just turn up and just, when she's on her game, she's unstoppable.
Did I just note, Barry, are you writing this down, are you?
I'm writing it down, mate, yes.
Saves me a job. I was just getting the spreadsheet up. Save me a job. I love that. I will go for Villa as well, purely because they're at home. I just think Everton could, and James said, I fancy Everton to win. They could. I just don't see it. I just think Villa are better than them. Maybe not showing it fully this season, but I just think they're a better side. United versus Newcastle. Notice how I said United there, because there's only one proper United. Newcastle don't count. Sorry to any Newcastle fans watching.
Listen, I said it before, Newcastle are smashing it. They've not lost a game in their league yet. The difference is, though, is that we're saying they're a championship side. Watford won that third tier and won through a playoff, which thank God they haven't got to do again. But they're currently sitting bottom of the championship. So just because you do great in one tier doesn't mean you'll do great in another. United will win. Manchester.
Yeah, I'm going Manchester United as well, because I think if they lose, there's big trouble. They shouldn't lose, is the bottom line. They should be winning that game comfortably with the team that they've got.
Joe's just fully sussed me out on the reason I picked Villa in the comments there. But I think I'm going to go Newcastle because I want them to. I'd love that to happen. And I know that's really dangerous saying that on an All 4 channel. But yeah, who doesn't love an upset?
No, it's fine. This is a neutral channel. Man United, obviously. Whilst Newcastle flying, doing really well, the gap between where they are and where United, the actual United, are, I think is just too big. One day that gap will be bridged, but for now, Man United.
And I'm actually going to agree with Laura, and I am going to go Newcastle. I think it'll be one of those kind of 1-0 scrappy wins, and Newcastle just managed to get across the line.
Connor, do we have to have these two back?
I was just going to say, there's only 4 people on the show next week, guys.
Yeah, sorry, we're two down already. The founding fathers just.
If Newcastle end up winning, it might just be these two on next.
Yeah, I'm not coming on next week if Man United don't win.
No, it's all fair on it. I think, I think Man United will just get over the line, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think on that one. So next one, Durham versus Man City.
I saw why you picked it. I really did, but it's going to be Man City, and they're going to find a way because they're just that sort of side. They generally tend to. So yeah, Man City.
Yeah, agreed. When you have Jill Roord and Bunny Shaw and Lauren Hemp and Chloe Kelly in the same team, you got to pull it out of the bag, and I just think that they've got that secured.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing as Mia. I think Durham will make it a tough game, and I don't think they'll run away with it as much as we might expect. But I think with that front line up, you just can't stop them from scoring, and I don't think Durham will.
Yeah, agreed. As much as I hate to say it, because Durham like to make life difficult for Man United, City just have a way, and yeah, I don't think they'll struggle that much. They're going to win.
I'd pretty much agree with what everyone said. That that front three that City have of Hemp, Chloe Kelly, and Bunny Shaw, when they're on their game, they're completely unstoppable. And now you've got the addition of Jill Roord, and you've got Yui Hasegawa in there as well. Yeah, they're going to absolutely run ragged around Durham.
I'm going to go against the grain and say Durham will win it. I think they'll make it difficult for them. And it's going to be a scrappy 2-1 free kick or something like that, or something ridiculous that just
I do
floats
hope
in.
you are correct, to be fair, because I think that would be funny.
Yeah, so I think on that one, yeah, I'll go Durham. This next one, I have a feeling we're all going to say the same one. Arsenal versus Watford.
Well, I mean, I was going to say Arsenal, but now the two Arsenal fans have been so rude about Man United, I've got to remember what sort of channel I'm on today. If this was all for United, I'd be coming out all guns blazing. But yeah, look, Watford are struggling in their one. Possibly looking like they're going to go back down to tier 3. Arsenal, on the other hand, are just, they're Arsenal, aren't they? They're not going to struggle, I don't think, on this one. That's an Arsenal win.
Yeah, I can't say much more than that. It's an Arsenal win. That's guaranteed.
I really hate predicting Arsenal games because I always feel like I'm going to jinx it. But yeah, I'll say Arsenal win. I'll back us. I just know we have a tendency to be able to bottle games like this.
Arsenal, however, I'm obviously praying for a Watford win.
Arsenal for me, I think it'll be quite an easy game. Obviously, James has just said we did struggle against Southampton, but yeah, Watford are not, anywhere near as good as Southampton are at the minute. So yeah, an easy Arsenal win for me. Now I've probably jinxed.
Yeah, and I think Polly makes a good point about Watford there. Most of Watford's players are either on loan or dual registered anyway. So yeah, I think easy Arsenal win on this one. I just realised it's my job to say what the next fixture is. Bristol versus Liverpool is the next one on the list. Bristol
versus Liverpool. So you've got bottom of the WSL against fifth in the WSL. So City have done quite well when they came up, but Liverpool I don't like this show anymore because I'm having to be far too nice. Liverpool are going to win. Yeah.
I'm going to go against what I think most people are going to say here, and I'm going to say Bristol City because they're at home. They pull in some good crowds at Ashton Gate, make a lot of noise, and they've not been out of games necessarily, Bristol City this year, and I think they're doing relegation form at the minute. It's not great, but progress through the FA Cup. Why not? I think they'll give it a good go. I'm going to say Bristol City.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one because I think it depends maybe where Liverpool put their focus because they're obviously doing very well in the league and maybe they then go, you know what, we'll go for our highest finish in the WSL. Let's not worry about the cup. And Bristol have something to prove. I also think Liverpool have looked susceptible to not winning. And Bristol, as Mia said, have done and stayed in games really well. So I think I might agree with Bristol there. Go for that.
I'm going to go Liverpool. I think they'll do it. I think they're going to want to progress in the FA Cup, I think. So I'm going to go Liverpool.
Yeah, I'm going to go Liverpool as well. I don't think it'll be an easy game. I think it'll be quite close. But, Liverpool are fifth in the table. We'll look at the table at the end of the season. Whether they'll still be that high up, we don't know with, this transfer window as well. And, big teams going to make, probably some big signings. But so I think Liverpool will put all their focus on getting as far as they can in the FA Cup.
I don't know because I think Bristol have obviously got bigger things to worry about. Obviously, we're staying in the WSL. Liverpool, as Tia is obviously is very inconsistent. They've been incredible in some games this season. They're quite poor in others. I'll go for Bristol just off the basis that you don't know which Liverpool's going to show up. Because if it's the one that's been struggling, there's a chance Bristol could do it. Yeah, I'll stick with Bristol. The next one, then, I feel like, again, this is going to be pretty unanimous across all of us. Chelsea versus West Ham.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be an it. It's the last season for Emma Hayes. She's going to want to go out on a bang, and, she's not going to allow little upstarts like West Ham United to come and step in her way, no matter how hard they are to beat. And we know that. We've seen that before. So, yeah, again, as entertaining as it would be to see West Ham win, I only see Chelsea winning them.
I'm going to say West Ham. I'm going to back them. I am not hopeful. I think it's going to be a very uncomfortable game. However, my only saving grace in staying West Ham is these new signings. That's it. I hope they slot in nicely. I hope they do their jobs, and I hope they play well. And if they do, and I'm hoping that Emma Hayes is going to want to, put some kids on, might get something out of it. But this is me being an optimist. I'm not being West Ham.
I think I'm going to be going to see this game, so I just want goals. But I think it's so hard to look beyond Chelsea. They seem to pull it out even when they don't have a good game. Like West Ham could dominate and Chelsea will still win. So I'm going to go Chelsea.
Yeah, I would love to say West Ham. I really would. But like Laura said, Chelsea could have an absolute shocker and still win. So Chelsea.
Yeah, Chelsea for me, they always find a way to win, even if they, have a really poor performance. I mean, I say that and Arsenal beat them in the WSL, but yeah, Chelsea 99.9% of the time find a way to win, and I think they will against West Ham.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add. Easy Chelsea win on that one. So the next one is Crystal Palace versus Blackburn. Again, another all-championship tie on this one. So this one might be a bit more difficult to predict.
It should be. You would think so. Absolutely. Palace and Blackburn very close together. But I think the thing that I've noticed more than anything there comes down to sort of goal difference, really. Palace are much more positive on that side than Blackburn. Blackburn have got -5 goal difference. They've won 5, lost 5, no draws. Whereas Palace won 6, drew 3, lost 2. 35-15, and actually when you look at the top scorers list, it's littered with Palace players and assists. So for that reason, I am going for the Palace made of crystals.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same for exactly the same reasons. I don't watch a lot of Championship, but I have heard about their striker, Palace. Hughes has been on fire. So yeah, Palace.
Do you want to find the unmute button? Yeah, I think it's hard to disagree on that one. Like, just the attacking prowess, although like not just Hughes, but the kind of setup they got at Palace going forward is really strong, and it's hard to predict beyond them, I think.
Yeah, very much agree with everything that's been said. I'm Palace. I think they're doing pretty well in the league. Obviously, as already been mentioned, their kind of ability going forward and for goal scoring is sort of really insane right now. So I think they're gonna take some stopping.
And I will also say Palace. I think, as everyone said, they've got a lot of attacking players that will, they know how to find the back of the net, and I'm sure they'll do that at the weekend.
Yep, Palace for me. Nice and easy. Ipswich versus Charlton.
Can I just point out, this is how you know it's a brand new channel with brand new morals and everything, because Connor over on the other channels would have gone with Blackburn just because they didn't get a vote. So, that's an absolute fact right there. Sorry, Connor, do you say Ipswich against Charlton?
Yes.
Yeah. Ipswich are another one of those that are doing quite well. Tier 3 against Tier 2 again, though. Ipswich doing well in their league. Charlton doing even better in theirs, to be fair. I think that's going to be an away win, Charlton.
Ooh. I have some affiliation with Ipswich, so I always root for them when I can. So I'm going to say Ipswich.
I think Charlton are a bit susceptible to an upset, but I do think they're in good form at the moment. So I think I'm going to stick with Charlton and go for the Championship side there.
Yeah, same. They're playing pretty well at the minute. So for me, I think it'll be pretty easy for them, Charlton.
Charlton for me, second in the Championship, doing very, very well. So yeah, Charlton for me.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I can see there's a potential for an upset there, but no, Charlton for me on that one. Your game, Barry. Luton versus Brighton.
Well, I want them to fly the flag for the lower league. I really do. And seeing as how we're all apparently allowed a vote of who we want to win rather than who we actually think will win, I'm going to go for Luton. Go on, do it for Tier 5, Luton.
No, this is Brighton's game. There's it would be beautiful. It would be so romantic for Luton to go through, but they're not going to. So I'm going to say Brighton.
Yeah, I really, really want Luton to win. I think that would just be the dream story, but I don't think they will, sadly. So I think it's going to have to be a Brighton win.
Yeah, again, always rooting for the underdog, especially in the FA Cup. I just think like anything can happen in the FA Cup, but I don't think it's going to happen in this game, unfortunately. It's going to be Brighton.
We love the magic of the cup, but I don't think this is the game where we're going to see that happen. So yeah, Brighton for me.
Yeah. I wasn't going to bring this up, but since Polly's mentioned it, yeah, never thought I'd Luton and romantic in the same sentence. Yes, sorry to anyone watching who's from Luton, but there we are. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Barry. I'd like to see a lower league side fly the flag, but no, Brighton. So next on the list was Plymouth versus Forest.
Plymouth against Nottingham Forest. So that's 10th in the Southern Premier League, Plymouth, against 3rd in the Northern Premier League, Forest. So ththese are two Tier 3 sides going head to head, one not having a great season, one having a brilliant season. I'm pretty sure it was Nottingham Forest we saw play Watford, win it in the playoff. Absolutely. And they were a very good side, Nottingham Forest. They pushed Watford all the way. So for that reason, based on the fact that I've seen them and I feel like they're doing better, I'm going to go for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, exactly the same. I remember hearing about that playoff game and expecting Forest to win in the first place, and they didn't, which is gutting. And thank God the system has changed now, so we don't have to see any more of that. But yeah, I'm going for Forest.
Yeah, I'm from Nottingham, and I'm still fuming that in the last one that was a playoff game, and they lost so cruelly. So I've got to go for Nottingham Forest for up the trees.
Yeah, agreed. I'm thinking Forest for this one.
Yeah, I've seen Forest play a fair few times over the past couple of seasons, obviously against Wolves and then in that playoff final against Watford. But regardless of the result, Forest will always put in a good performance and will make it hard for the other team. So yeah, Forest for me.
Yeah, again, I like being last because I can just agree with what you're saying, and yeah, Forest on that one. So we're over to Laura's tie, which is obviously Sunderland Southampton. What are we going for on that one?
It's really interesting listening to what Laura had to say. Actually, I'm going to give her the Barry Award for brilliant investigative journalism on that one. I think that she really nailed the topic area that we were going for today. So kudos to you. You get player of the match from me. Really interesting as well to hear about the history of how Southampton were the winners of the first FA Cup. I liked it, and it is tight, but my research tells me that there are more goal scorers and more assist makers in Southampton than there are in Sunderland. So it will be the team in red and white that wins, but it will be those lovely little sailors from Southampton as opposed to Sunderland.
Yeah, I agree. I think the project that Southampton are building and have been building for the last couple of seasons is really exciting. Hopefully, we'll see them in the WSL very soon. But yeah, for me, I'd like Southampton to progress, and I do think they will.
I'm just glad my history and politics degree has been used for something. But I think, yeah, I agree. I think Southampton, they've got a lot more about them up front. I think they can score a few against Sunderland now. And yeah, I had something else to say, but I can't remember what it was. So we'll move on to Jess.
I think this is going to be a really close one. I think it could go either way, but I'm going to kind of follow suit and go with Southampton. Like what Mia said, I think they put some investment in, and it really shows. And similar to Newcastle, another team from the northeast again, good talent, and I reckon a few years, especially if the WSL ever expands, then they really could be contenders.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the closest ties we're going to see in this round in terms of where both teams are. I'm going to go with a draw, but then I am going to say Southampton will just pip it on penalties.
Shocking. I'll go for Sunderland. Why not? Yeah, I'll just go for them. I know Southampton were good against Arsenal, but yeah, let's go for Sunderland. Let's keep Freya happy if she's still watching. So the next one is Burnley versus Birmingham. So this is what, tier 3 versus Championship.
It is, yes. We got second in the Northern Prem, which is Burnley, against first in the Championship, Birmingham. Again, everything I'm looking at, Charlie Devlin, yeah, it's going to be Birmingham, 100%. Win for Birmingham.
Oh, I was typing and didn't realise it was my turn. I think it's going to be Birmingham City that progressed through. They've been a really excited team to watch this season as well. Some good players. It's going to be tough, really tough for Burnley to try and get one over them. They're at home, which is a benefit, but I don't think that really counts for too much when you're playing teams of that kind of quality.
Yeah, I'm going to agree and go for Birmingham. I think their quality, and they're doing really well this season to be top of such a competitive championship. I don't think they're gonna fall to a Burnley hurdle.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. Burnley are, they're doing really well considering the only team that are above them in Newcastle, who, like I said before, have put in massive investment. But with Birmingham doing so well in the Championship, I don't think they're going to lose to a team kind of in the lower league.
Yeah, Birmingham for me as well. Burnley are obviously having a brilliant season, but when you look at the names of the players that Birmingham have, they've got WSL experience, a lot of them, lots of Championship experience and international experience as well, a lot of them. So, yeah, they will get over the line there.
Yeah, agree. I think I'd like to see potential upset, obviously, with Burnley winning, but I just can't see it. So I'll go for a Birmingham win as well. And just very quickly on anything, I think, isn't it the week after? So it will be next week, right? Isn't it next Thursday? Don't quote me on that. I don't actually know. It's just usually the Thursday or Wednesday following the ties. So I'm just guessing at this point, but I don't actually know. So I might have to Google that to clarify when it actually is. While somebody does that, the next one, Barry, is Reading versus Wolves.
Reading versus Wolves. Meg's little this will be good for this one because this is where we get her to put our Mystic Meg side in, isn't it? I would love to see Wolves do well. I really would. And they've got a real chance. If there is going to be an upset that isn't Luton against Brighton, I do think it's going to be Wolves Reading. Reading are just having a torrid time at the minute. Wolves, I think, are actually on the up on it. So, yeah, why not? I'm going to go away win. I think that's going to be one of the stories of the round.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think that Reading are lacking a lot of inspiration. And I think it's going to take a hot minute before they are back in any contentions or anything. So, yeah, unfortunately for Reading, I'm going to say Wolves, which would be nice to see a team lower down the league progress into the next round.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's so sad to see what's going on at Reading at the moment and the way their women's team's being treated. And I think Wolves can take full advantage of that, and maybe Reading can give a bit of happiness to someone else.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with everything that's been said so far. I think Reading's kind of demise is really sad to see, as a WSL team from last season. However, the guy I work with will be very happy that I've picked Wolves because he is a big Wolves fan. So there we go. One person will be happy at least.
I will also be very happy if Wolves women go through it, and I'm going to say they will. When they've got their striker Amber Hughes on form, she is unstoppable, and if she gets the service that she needs to be that poacher in front of goals, she'll score a couple for sure against Reading.
Oh, I'm torn. I will go. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I'll go for Reading home win on this one. Although I would like to see Wolves win. But yeah, I'll go for Reading on that one. So we're into the final 3 fixtures. So next one, Tottenham versus Sheffield United.
we don't have to muck about with that one. It's going to be Spurs, and I wouldn't be surprised if Martha Thomas scores 7.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be really nice if that was to happen. I really don't like Spurs at all. Really don't like them. Would like to see them get knocked out of every competition they ever enter. However, I do think this is in the bag for them.
I need to remember to put my mouse over my unmute button. But I think, I can't disagree. I can't say the words Spurs and then full stop win in the same sentence, but I think they will. I think they will on this occasion.
Yeah, does anyone actually like Spurs? I mean, I'm sure there must be like the one fan out there somewhere. So it is physically painful for me to say it, but I do think that Spurs will win this one, sadly, for everyone.
Yeah, someone else who dislikes Spurs over here a lot, especially after Arsenal somehow lost to them in the WSL. But yes, Spurs are going to freeze that.
Yeah, I can't see an upset happening in this one, unfortunately. But yes, the Spurs win on that one. So we've got another. I think this is a Tier 3 WSL tie. So Derby versus Leicester. Obviously, Derby being the home side in this one. Barry, where are you going? We're kicking us off with this one.
Do you know, if it was a side that was doing well in the Northern Prem, I think they'd have a really good chance. They're not. You know, they won 4, lost 5. Leicester are struggling as well, but I think their quality is just going to see them through. So that's a Leicester win.
Yeah, I think Leicester are really going to push on in this tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit semi-final sort of levels. They deserve it after the season they've had so far. They've everything that anyone's ever said about Leicester, about how they're, a mid-table, relegation, championship bouncer team. No, they've been superb, and I would like to see them progress, and I'd like to see them do really well in this tournament. So I think they will beat Derby.
Yeah, I'm quite excited for the East Midlands derby, and I hope it has a bit of that about it, a bit of East Midlands derby in the match, and you see that kind of play out. I think Leicester just have too much about them. I think they've done better this season than they did last season in the WSL. I think they have too much quality for Derby, sadly. But I'm looking forward to the East Midlands derby.
Yeah, fully agree. I think it'll be a good game, like Laura said, being a derby. But I don't think Derby, the team Derby, are really doing well enough in their own league to offer any kind of fight or real competition against a Leicester side that are doing pretty well, to be fair.
If we were talking about Derby a season or 2 seasons ago, I would say they would probably have a decent chance against Leicester. But yeah, they're not on good form this season, so it's Leicester for me.
Yeah, 100% agree on that one. I've got a bit of a thing with Derby, obviously, with Starbridge knocking them out last year, which was very entertaining with the giant killing run that Starbridge went on, by the way, with knocking so many teams out from the tier above them a couple of years ago there against Derby and Cambridge and all those. But Derby are not the same side. So Leicester on that one. And finally, last but not least, London City Lionesses versus Moneyfields.
You see, I went for Luton to do the giant killing, not just on a whim. You know, they kept 4 clean sheets out of 5 in their last 5 games, funny enough. Whereas Moneyfields haven't necessarily done that, but they're on that 8 matches unbeaten run. They're away from home. They're not at home. It might be the end for Moneyfields. I think I'm going to go London City Lionesses on this one, as much as I would like to see Moneyfields win.
Yeah, I'm going London City Lionesses as well. They need to pull some form back. So I think this is the perfect game for them to kick on with that. It would be impressive for Moneyfields to go through, but I think this is for London City Lionesses.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's going to have to be London City Lionesses. I think as well, after their takeover, you're looking at where can you stand out as a team, and I think a cup run would do just that. Obviously, they want to focus on the championship and doing as well as they can there, but with, I don't know, promotion not too realistic, but maybe not this season. I think a cup run would probably be very favourable for them.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. London City Lionesses. I think Moneyfield's decent side, but still relatively new. I think London City just can have that experience and kind of quality that it's not going to be too difficult for them, to be honest.
And London City Lionesses, for me, as much as I'd love Moneyfields to, cause that cup upset, I don't think we'll see that in that fixture.
No, and I'm on exactly the same page as everyone else here. It would be nice to see, but no, I'll go for London City as well. So that kind of concludes the 16. We've run through it all. Barry's going to come back next week. I hope you just tot up some points, Barry. Let's see who's actually the best predictor. Even though a lot of us have gone for the same on a lot of games, we have gone different on a few of them. So it'll be interesting to see who has got the most when it comes to next week after all these ties have been played. And by that point, as someone put in the comments earlier, the draw would have been made as well. So we'll know who has got who in the next round. On that one. There was a couple of questions, obviously, regarding Chelsea and Sam Kerr. We'll get to that in just a second, but the kind of the final, I guess, FA Cup question, because we're going for an hour and 10 minutes already. We do want to wrap this up at some point before midnight. The kind of final, I guess, FA Cup question, Barry, you mentioned this earlier in terms of, we have this conversation in men's football a lot in terms of has the FA Cup got the same, I guess, special factor as it did or as it once had. So I guess the question for you in terms of what the FA Cup means to you from the women's game point of view, and do you think it has that same, I guess, awe around winning the cup?
From the women's FA Cup side, if you were to look at it from a fan's point of view, I think of the FA Cup semi-final last season and the fact that, I was there for that one, Rachel Williams scoring late on, as Rachel Williams does, and giving us that opportunity to move on into the FA Cup final and make history. You think about those sorts of things as a fan, absolutely. That's a moment that immediately springs to mind. And I think this is the thing about women's football. It's literally making those memories. It's not in that position where it's necessarily got loads of memories to make, although obviously if you're Laura, you can come up with things for Southampton just out of a whim of a hat, which is really quite good. But like for the average fan, the people that have maybe only been introduced to women's football in the last 3, 4, 5 years, absolutely, there's that opportunity. But this is what I mean. The FA Cup in general, you always talk about the magic of the cup. I think there's so many stories to be made. And I think this is part of the reason why having a channel like this, where you can focus on all of the leagues, on everywhere, is that you get to look for these stories. You get to look for where these things happen and find and shine a light on the brilliance that's happening everywhere. Because women's football is great, but we only ever see the WSL or the American League or, the Spanish League. We see all of those sorts of things being highlighted. We don't see it happening elsewhere. And that's why I thought this was such a good and valid way to go, looking at the FA Cup and seeing how some of these lower league teams were going to be there. Look at the conversation we managed to have today. We've maintained a viewership of over 30 people each time, constantly watching this because we want to talk about wider than just the WSL. It's not just about that. It's that idea because it's the FA Cup. Are people going to be interested in hearing us talk about, I don't know, Luton against Stevenage? Possibly not. But it shows it's there. The appetite is there. But I'm more interested in what these girls have got to say with regards to the magic of the FA Cup than what I've got to say about it, really.
I didn't know whether Mia was just going to go straight there. It was so professional over it. I didn't know whether Mia was going to be in sync with my thinking there and just go straight in, or whether she was waiting for me to repeat the question off the back of what
I'm a creature of habit, Connor. I need you to introduce me. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is that Barry's just said there about making memories. My memories of women's football are the FA Cup. I did West Ham men's home and away when I was a kid, so the only opportunity for me to watch women's football was the FA Cup. So that's where it means a lot to me in that regard, as in I've seen that grow. And last year technically, I covered the FA Cup, Chelsea Man United in the press box, which again was huge, a massive achievement and milestone in my life. And it all happens around the FA Cup. And it's not about the final. It's about the journey up, and it's about all of these teams from different places in, towns you've never heard of before across the UK that have just come out of nowhere if you're a WSL Championship fan and are, 8 games unbeaten, or have got a striker that bags 40 goals a season, and you're just finding out about it then. And you sort of never really forget that. And, you know, we're going to be talking about Moneyfields in years to come if they progress. We're going to be talking about Luton. We're going to be talking about Wolves. It is magical. And the FA Cup is by far, I say about the men's, it means exactly the same in the women's, best cup tournament in world football.
And I guess Laura and Jess, for yourself, because I was just having a look to make sure that was correct. Obviously, both of your first games was FA Cup games, obviously in women's football. So, yeah, just the same question to both of yourselves, I guess, and then the importance, I guess, on the FA Cup, maybe not just in recent years, but obviously on yourselves going, obviously when you were younger as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to make that point in terms of like our first games were both FA Cup finals, and I think at one point the FA Cup final was the only women's match that was televised. So many people's roots into women's football must have been through the FA Cup final. So in many ways, I think that makes it like more magical. And I think like echoing everything that everyone else has said. I mean, I remember that match like so clearly, and I was 5 years old. So it was probably one of my first memories. But like the FA Cup final, like it's huge. Still a huge crowd back in 2007 at the City Ground. I remember like saying I want to support that team, and I have since then. And yeah, like I think there was a Kelly Smith free kick, like top bins. It was so good, and I think that's why I still support football. And then you get to see the trophy lift at the end of it. I think that makes it all like way cooler as well as a child. And just knowing that little bit of silverware's at stake. But yeah, also like talking about all these stories that are coming out of it, we always, when there's cup runs in the men's game, you see BBC Sport articles about the player from the non-league club who also works on the side as another job. I want to hear those stories about Luton. I want to hear about the prolific goal scorer from Luton who does another job on the side and hear her background. And I think we need more and more of that in the women's game, because we do get that highlighted in the men's game, and we do hear those stories on the BBC Sport, on whoever's televising it on their channels. Let's have more of that in the women's game and hear those stories, because I think that's where the women's game can expand further and further.
Well, Laura, your memory is much better than mine, because I can't remember what I did like last week. I actually had to really rack my brain to try and think about my first game. That is the FA Cup final. I think it was 07 or 08 is the first one I can remember. However, I do think I probably went to a game before that, but honestly, I don't know. However, even the game I did see, I said this to Connor, the only thing I really remember is there was a streaker that ran on the pitch. And unfortunately, that is all I remember. And also at the end of the game, I think I tried to ask Sue Smith for her boots or her shin pads, and she was like, sorry, this is literally like my only pair. And I was like, right, yes, of course, because no one's being paid really for this. And like it's already been mentioned, the FA Cup was probably like the only game that was televised. Like I remember my grandparents being like, oh my God, like women's football's on TV, Jess, like make sure you watch it this weekend or whenever. And again, like I've played in the FA Cup at my lowly little level. So even just being part of it like that, and it can make a huge difference, you know, the investment, the prize money you get, even just winning those really kind of early games, it can make a huge difference for kind of teams down in like tier 5, 6, whatever. You know, it's huge. And I get bragging rights for always being able to say that I've scored in the FA Cup. Like how many people realistically can say that? Probably actually quite a lot, but I don't want to talk to any of them. So I'm only going to talk to people that haven't done that. But no, it's massive. I'm still a massive fan of the FA Cup. I think it might have lost some of its magic in the men's game, but in the women's game, I think it's just such a great opportunity for any team to play against higher ranked teams, play in actual stadiums as well. You know, some of these kind of lower ranking teams, if they get drawn against teams in higher tiers, they can play in stadiums. That is wild. Like I've played in the odd stadium and it's been insane, because you kind of just get used to these little patches of grass that you're shoved on in the corner of a park somewhere. So even that is just a fantastic experience for the players, for fans, for everyone really.
I was going to say, none of us can say that, can we? I don't think. Apart from Jess.
See you later. That's me done.
you've started some of them. Well, maybe we'll ask this every week. How many of our viewers each week as the channel grows?
No,
So
scored more than one eventually, and then I'll cry.
we will find this person.
Having been the only person in this chat and panel that scored in the FA Cup.
Meg, for yourself, I guess for you, I can't remember what you put down as your first game. I don't remember it being FA Cup. It may have been. I can't remember. But yeah, for yourself, obviously, what off the back of what these girls have said, obviously about the FA Cup and the magic of it that's still in the women's game.
Yeah, I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I think any Arsenal fan can say the FA Cup holds a special place in their heart. For women's and men's. We hold the record for the most in the women's and the men's game. The women haven't won it for quite a while now, which is a shame. But I think the biggest difference between the FA Cup, now with the men's and the women's is you get so many women's football fans, whoever they support, wanting to go to the Women's FA Cup final, regardless of who is in it. It's kind of seen as more of like a celebration of, women's football and just wanting to see two, brilliant sides on display. And I think in the men's game, the importance or how people see it has kind of declined over the past few seasons because, the leagues are seen as more important and like the Champions League and stuff as well. So I think that's, why it's so magic in a way. I don't have the best record I've only been to one Women's FA Cup final myself, which is probably maybe the worst Arsenal performance I've seen when we lost to Chelsea. I think it was the one that was held in December in 2021. Yeah, that was an abysmal performance from Arsenal. So I don't have the best record of actually going to Women's FA Cup games, but hopefully that can change. But yeah, I think as Jess was saying, just about the stories that come from it, you see so many of that in the men's game, and because there's still a gap in coverage from the women's game because people don't really go further down than the WSL in the Championship. There aren't those people that want to talk about those stories like your Lutons and just bring those players to light who deserve to be in the spotlight for a bit.
I think, listening to everything that the girls have said has been superb. And I think this is, again, really talking about the memories that have been made for these four specifically there, but also for all the boys and girls everywhere that are going to be watching this and growing up and getting their first taste of it. Every single one of us has put down when we first went to a football match. We can all remember it. Like, none of us had to sit there on that question and go, what was that first match? When did I go? And I can do that for both. I can remember the one that I went to for the men's team. I can remember the ones that I've been to for the women's team. So I think it's a really important thing. And, I just wanted to say beyond that, part of the reason you want to get involved in this channel and to try and do that is, again, as I said, was to shine the light on what's going on in all of these other stories that are happening across the world of football. And I think I did a program this weekend for Stevenage, and in that we actually had an interview with one of our ex-players, Vicky Neal. And I bring her up because there was just this brilliant story she told us about as she was getting older. She played for Stevenage when she was younger, played for Cambridge United first team at the age of 15, because at that point, 20 years ago, you're allowed to play adult football at the age of 15, which in itself just felt like madness. But there she is playing first team football. She goes to university. She spends a bit of time at Stevenage for a year. And as she comes away from university, just thinks, of what now? So at 21 years of age, what should she do? And she spent the last 6 years coaching a youth team. So that youth team has now reached 16, 15, 16 years of age. And they're going, well, we've got nowhere to play. So she said, you know what we'll do? We'll make a team and I'll play with you lot and you can play and it'll be great. So she became like a player manager. And they went up through the county leagues. They made it all the way to the league that Stevenage are in now before she went, you know what, I can't do this anymore, be a player and a manager. I'm only 25 years old. But the bit that was great about it was this village team that she made it to the FA Cup. And it was the first FA Cup game that had ever been played at Bar Hill, the only time. So this entire village, everybody just came out of their doors, came to watch what was going on, whether it be men's team, women's team. And this is where the FA Cup can make these stories. But they're all just currently sat in little pubs, in little pockets, in little places. And I just want these stories to come up and come alive, because honestly, there is so much joy to be found within this game. And it's just waiting to be uncovered, and we're going to be people to uncover it. So that's why you should stick with us.
I'm certainly going to clip that, Barry. That's definitely one for Twitter when we come off here just after this, because I think, yeah, as everyone said, obviously their own individual stories, and that story there, I think that's what we want to do on this channel is put a spotlight on stories like that, and obviously looking back, but also looking forward in terms of what stories can be made, as we've done a little bit tonight. You know, I've got nothing quite like that, but you know, when I mentioned it earlier, obviously when I first got involved with Stourbridge Women, go to Derby, a couple of tiers above, they were 2 tiers at the time, and go to their place, beat them 3-2 with a 90th minute Courtney Murphy lob from the halfway line to win it, which was incredible. And then it went on next round, beat another team above them, and then faced Sheffield, which was 4 leagues above them at the time, which was a bit too far, and inevitably lost. But those 2 games for them at the time, being tier 5, was absolutely massive. So yeah, stories everywhere to be told in the FA Cup, that's for sure. So it's been a good starting point in the FA Cup for this channel, because it's kind of, I guess, encapsulated everything that we want to do. We've had a bit of joking around. We've had, as we usually do if people have seen us before. We've obviously covered the stories that could happen and have happened, and a bit of predictions in there as well. To round this show off, because I did say I'd come back to it, so very quickly, because it did come out obviously yesterday, and it has kind of sent more shockwaves around women's football, as these things usually do when there's a big injury to a big star name, as we've seen. So right the way back to your comment, you put this over an hour ago. On this one, do you think Chelsea need to assign a Kerr replacement? And then follow it up, obviously talking about Ian Wright suggesting that Chelsea should go after Miedema. And then obviously Freya was then following that up, talking about Mia Official and Beaver Jones. So I'll come to yourself first, Laura, on this one in terms of, I don't really know what the question is in terms of, do you think Chelsea need to sign a replacement? Do you think they will sign one? Or do you think they should be pretty content with the squad that they've got?
I don't think they need to, on a sense of they have a deep squad and they have good options. Aggie Beaver-Jones is doing really well this season. Mia Official's very good. But I think they will, and I think they want depth. I mean, like this season for Chelsea, right, it's Champions League or bust and win as much as we can because it's Emma Hayes' final hooray. If you want to win the Champions League and you want to compete in the other competitions, Emma Hayes is very aware you need depth, and that is something that Chelsea can get. They've got the finances to do it. It's clear. I mean, I don't know if anyone else has done it, but like looking through the WSL sticker book and the amount of players that Chelsea have down the bottom, like their squad depth is insane. It's quite a good representation of it, I think. But yeah, like I think that's their strategy, right? And they have the quality, they have the ability to attract those players. Every player knows Emma Hayes is going after the Champions League. So if you want to add a Champions League to your CV, you're going to be attracted by that. So if there's anyone on the market, I think they can get them. And I think they will definitely be in the market now. I think it'd be silly for them not to. And it does feel like this is endgame for Chelsea now with Emma Hayes leaving.
This is Endgame for Chelsea. Well, that's the title of next show, I think, on that one. Endgame for Chelsea, Laura, and we'll get a Chelsea. Maybe we'll get Rob on for that one. Just you and Rob can debate it on that one. Has anyone got anything? I realised I just went to Laura first just randomly, just because I happened to be looking at you when I asked that question. But has anything got anything to add on Chelsea? And I guess obviously the Kerr injury in terms of what impact that could have. Do Chelsea need to sign somebody else?
I would just say that if you asked this question a couple of seasons ago, Chelsea would be in a lot more trouble than, the position they're in now. They've got Lauren James, who has found her goal scoring, and they've got Aggie Beaver-Jones, who's been coming off the bench and scoring goals. So they now have the players. Kerr isn't their top goal scorer at the minute, and that does say quite a lot. So they aren't solely relying on her for all their goals, which they may have been doing, a few seasons ago. But as Laura's just said, if they want to go on and, do the treble or whatever, or at least win the Champions League, they're going to have to sign another quality striker. And that's interesting about Miedema. I don't think they'd go in for Miedema. She's only just come back from her injury, and yes, she just scored against her childhood club Feyenoord in a behind the closed doors friendly. But we don't know what her impact is going to be in the WSL for the next 6 months. Yes, she may return back to her best, but we don't know that, and I don't think Chelsea can kind of bank on that as a reason to go for her.
I'll just add with that actually, and it's quite nice to be sat on a channel where I can say this and not feel like the world's going to shout at you. I think it's terrible what's going on with all these ACLs at the moment, and it is robbing such a good opportunity for people to see the wealth of talent that there is in women's football. I've always said Sam Kerr is one of the best strikers that I've ever seen. I think she's absolutely brilliant. So as a result, I think that's poor. I would just add that for me, it's not about whether Chelsea want to or need to anymore. I think it's more about Emma Hayes, what she wants for the end of her season. So if she's sitting there feeling like this is her legacy, this is what's going to define her, she might well go all in and try and really go for it because she wants to sign off with lots of it. If she's more about the club and she's just about the longevity, she might just be thinking more about just keep them doing well. It's not about me, which is where I think she'd probably be. But you couldn't blame her for having a tilt, really, could you? Because she's probably already going to be signed off as one of the greatest managers that the women's game's ever seen. So why not try and go all in for it and try and get everything? So I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to sign someone. I wouldn't be surprised if they stumped up £6 million or something stupid like that and bought a really good striker from Arsenal. No, not Russo. Miedema.
Amara's made obviously a contract renewal as well. I actually said to somebody yesterday at the game I was at that I actually think this probably means she stays anyway, at least for another year, because she's not going to leave mid-rehab, obviously, while she's doing her recovery. So I think, if anything, this probably means she signs for another. Exactly as you said, Amara. I think she'll stay just purely because of that. Everything she's given to Chelsea, I think it's probably about right. That she does her rehab there as well. A few names mentioned in the Chelsea. Hegerberg was one. She's out of contract in the summer, potentially. But it goes back to what Laura just said, and obviously Joe's agreeing with you now. With this being her last season, she wants the Champions League, obviously, with it being the only trophy she hasn't got over the line. I don't know what top striker you could get in January when these clubs are still in the Champions League. They're still fighting for their own domestic titles. I just don't know what player would move this in the summer. 100%, I could see him getting a Hegerberg or somebody like that because it's Chelsea. They're the biggest draw in England in that respect. But right now, I'm not too sure. And I don't think they need anyway. With the goals they've got, Wrighton's now back in the setup as well. Obviously, James Fischel and obviously Macario we're not even seen yet for Chelsea. Somebody else to come into the mix. Another world-class player that they've got on their books that we've not quite seen yet. That would be crazy, right? Could anyone say? I can't see that, surely. Mia's frantically shaking her head. She doesn't want that to happen.
No, I don't want it in the WSL. I don't want her back in the WSL. No. She played for Spurs. Stay in America.
Yeah, we've already established what to do with Spurs, and that includes all their ex-players. No matter how short their tenure was at the club, no. Stay away from our league.
But the thing is, she came to play for Spurs, and I don't know that she had as many chances as she'd get in a Chelsea side. Chelsea just make up chances for fun. So if there's a place where you're going to succeed, you would think that's more likely to be it.
I think I'm personally ready to let go of Alex Morgan. I know that's really probably a controversial take, but she's keeps worming her way into like the Ballon d'Or and the World 11, and I don't quite know what she's doing. But anyway, I'll stop standing. Just really quickly though, to add on to Chelsea, I'm gonna say complete opposite of what everyone's just said, and say I don't think they're gonna sign anyone. I think Emma Hayes is I think she's gonna push for Champions League, but as Connor said, I think it's ridiculous to get a top quality striker in January when they could get one in for free, sort of deal out in the summer. I just think that's something that you got to swallow. ACLs. You don't predict an ACL, and it's so unfortunate that it's happened, and it's so unfortunate it's happened to their best striker. But I don't see them. They've got a strong enough team. I think they'll do okay.
I think I've just had it on screen there. Joe makes an important point, obviously, with the next coach as well, whoever is going to come in at Chelsea. If they sign somebody now, it's got to be somebody who's going to suit the style of the next manager as well, not just obviously Emma Hayes' last final months at Chelsea. I think that could potentially with Wolfsburg out of the Champions. I think they've got more likelihood of getting Pyle out of Wolfsburg than they have Pop, though. with Pyle not signing a contract there. So there's potentially we've literally just had that discussion on the Ulf United channel talking about Pyle and potential United links. But
Pop in the WSL would be, oh my god, she'd be formidable. Oh, I don't even want to think about it.
Gura right and putting crosses into Pop on the end of it in the middle. Can you imagine? I don't want to imagine.
No.
No, you will actually make me cry, and this close to bedtime is not good.
That would be quite something. Right, should we wrap it there? We've been going for plus 90 minutes plus as our first show. Obviously, with 6 of us, it was always going to go on for
We're into time added on.
We are. We've inherited the thing. Do you remember that thing at the start of the season where there was like 20 minutes added on in every game, and now it's just not? It's like back down to like normal numbers. Anyway, yeah, so we'll wrap it up there. There's potentially another show this week on transfers, funny enough, as we've literally just been talking about. So we've potentially got a guest on to talk us through that. A little bit more of an in-the-know person than we are when it comes to transfers. So stay tuned for that one. But just follow the Twitter handle. I didn't say that, Ulf United WFC. That it's not. I need to get used to this. At Ulfa WOFO, because I know Amara and Tida are in the comments. It's not WOSO, it's WOFO. We're going to change that narrative as we go along with this channel. So yeah, if you just follow on the Twitter account, you'll see when we're next going live. Thanks to these amazing 5 people. You'll be seeing them live again next Monday. You'll be seeing all of us scattered around the channel over the next kind of few weeks doing our own various shows and all different kinds of things. Appreciate you all in the comments. You've been absolutely brilliant. Your input has been amazing to see as we start this new little venture as into women's football. Make sure you're liking the video, subscribing, all of that stuff. Follow us on Twitter, as I just said there, and we shall see you guys in the next one.